Hello, and a video about secondary gain. If you're familiar with the world of therapy and coaching, then you might be familiar with this concept. The simple idea is that there is a gain from something which may lie outside of conscious awareness. And when it comes to people who may be wrestling from a health challenge, a secondary gain of being unwell or having a health problem can be they could have lots of attention. It means they don't have to confront some issues in life, a whole range of issues, primarily connected to something about life and having to move forward with life. So one of the things that we have to be mindful of is that, because if we are working with people who are unwell, in the vast majority of cases, their thinking brain will tell you that they absolutely want to be well. But there may be a huge secondary gain from being unwell. Now, one of the things that we have to be very gentle about how we approach this. So one of the things that to do is, if you sense there may be some advantages here for this person in being unwell, if this person is having lots of attention, if it means that they don't have to confront something very awkward in their life, then you may want to begin to probe. And one of the subtler ways that we can do it is that we can ask, well, it's probably more obvious actually, we can ask one of our clients, what is it that they would lose? You know, how would their life change if they were to be completely well? And most of the time they will say, oh yeah, I don't think I'd lose anything, I'd be well. I say, well, let's just have a look at, you know, there must be some positives that are taking place now. And when, you know, when you have a look at that and you have a look at what those positives are and what might you lose, then maybe some things can begin to come to the surface. Now, here's an example of this. Many years ago, I had a client, a 16-year-old client, and she had chronic fatigue syndrome. She had made huge gains, and then she plateaued. And it was very interesting, and she was very aware of this herself. She came and she brought the subject to one of our sessions, and she said, do you know what, I'm really concerned that her mother was self-employed, and prior to being ill, the mother was kind of working all the time. And since the daughter had developed CFS, the mother had spent much more time with the daughter, and the daughter was concerned that so their relationship had flourished, and the daughter was then very concerned that if she got completely well again, the relationship would suffer because the mother would just go back to work. So we addressed this. We talked to her mother, and we kind of explained what was going on, what needed to happen, so my client, the daughter, could sort of rest assured that when she got well, her mother would do what she could to maintain that relationship, which she did. The girl got well. So that's an example of great client awareness of secondary gain, but it's something that we need to be aware of because it's very often unconscious, but it's very often there under the surface. And it's that idea of, well, what would you lose if we look at your current context? What would you lose? You know, this is an example of this. I remember having a friend years ago that worked with people who smoked, and he'd said to me that he looked at this with a particular client, and the client initially said, oh well, I don't think I'd lose anything, I'd be healthy, it'd be great. And he put over the idea that, well, actually, there will be some advantages for you at some level, whether you're consciously aware of it or not. At some level, there will be some positives for you of continuing to smoke. And what they found was this guy smoked at work, and his friends also smoked, and they went out for breaks to have a cigarette outside. And there was a concern that if he stopped smoking, he'd stop having that time, that free time where they would kind of laugh and joke, and he wouldn't have that time. So then it was kind of raised, and the way they talked about it was, well, can you take that time without actually smoking? So the secondary gain is often there. It's often unconscious, and it is something that we have to be mindful of We don't always have to bring it to the surface. If we do, we need to talk about it very carefully. Okay?